Activate.
Are we got the YouTube ready?
I'm going live right now.
Okay.
And I'm about to hit record for Zoom. I'll let you know when it's.
Okay, this is the warning.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, we're good.
Ikino?
Yep.
Mai kai. Velina me ke aloha, mai oa o na kama aloha. E na aumakua, na kini akua, e kanaloa e. E na lala o ke komikina nei, me ka pope alakai, na lala o ke alakai ana o ke ia komikina o ke komikina malama Kaho'olawe. Velina kākou I ke ia halawai nei, ke ia la iwa ka lua kumaono o Iune, ke ia no ka po'a kolu, ua halawai, ua ho'omaka ia ke ia halawai ma ka hale o Kalani Moku, e ia no kekahi o na lala ma ke ia ke'ena ma lalo o DLNR, e ia kekahi o kākou ma ke ia papa kaumaka o Zoom. So, Velina, aloha everyone. Ho'omaka ia. This meeting is called to order. Today is the meeting of the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission, June 26, 2024, both virtual and in present at the Kalani Moku building. Greetings to our commissioners, to our KIRC staff, and to all of you joining us near and far. Aloha. Hello, everybody. My name is Miki Ala Pescaya. I serve as the chair. I will preside over this meeting. Can we call for the roll?
Commissioner Pescaya.
Here. Aloha.
Vice Chair Saito.
Aye.
Commissioner Chang.
Aye.
Commissioner Evans.
Hello.
Commissioner Mata'afa.
Here.
Commissioner Pang.
Here.
Commissioner Souza is excused.
Kakua pau. Mai kai. If you are following along, our agenda and accompanying documents can be found online on our Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission webpage. We're going to proceed with our agenda. Our next item is the approval of the minutes from the April 24th, 2024 meeting. I will entertain discussion or a motion. If you are following along, our agenda and accompanying documents can be found online on our Kaho'olawe
Tell Jamie
Island
to
Reserve.
mute his. Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's the delay.
Seeing no discussion or questions, I move to approve the minutes of April 24th, 2024.
That motion by Commissioner Chang, second.
Second.
Commissioner Evans. Any
Sorry.
discussion?
One, what is it called?
Correction.
Yeah, in the section, what is that, 8? The Okina are the wrong way in Mike's name,
Oh.
so.
Oh.
What was the change?
Okina's in your
Change
name.
the Okina,
Oh, okay.
sorry, I'm an English teacher.
Mai kai. We strive to be mayau in everything we do.
Yeah.
So the amendment is to correct the typo of the Okina in section 8. Any other discussion? Seeing none, can we vote?
Chair Pescaya.
Aye.
Vice Chair Saito.
Aye.
Commissioner Chang.
Aye.
Commissioner Evans.
Aye.
Commissioner Mata'afa.
Aye.
Commissioner Pang.
Aye.
Motion carried. Mahalo. Our next agenda item is an invitation to community and public to offer comments to the commission. Is there anyone in the room that I cannot see?
No. Not even Keone.
I think he might be on mode.
Okay. Seeing none, we will proceed, and if perhaps someone arrives later, we can maybe revisit that if we need to. Moving on to number 4, action items. We'll begin with A, the approval of the KIRC budget for fiscal year 2025. Director Naho'opi'i.
Okay, thank you very much. Cass, we have a share screen presentation. We'll bring that up.
Says I'm screen sharing. Oh, there we go.
Just press play.
Okay. Oh, I guess ours is the slide version. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so Chair Piscott, can you see the presentation? Okay, good. Next slide, please. This is the FY25 presentation. Can you change that view? Yeah, change that view to full screen like that. Yeah.
I think if you go up to display settings, there might be a option.
Because right now it's showing slide notes.
You want to take it out of
There you
presentation?
go.
There you go.
Okay, so the requested motion, recommended motion is to accept a 1.978 072 and 31 cents general fund appropriation budget, and to approve a trust fund expenditure of 300,300. Oh, let me silent this thing. To approve a trust fund expenditure of 303,769 and 85 cents for a total operating, that's correction, FY25 operating budget of 2.281842 and 16 cents budget. Next slide, please. So you can see this, you can also see it's also in your memo too. So general funds for this year, we are using slightly less, using slightly less general funds, about 9% less than last year. But we have a significant increase of 164% increase in general fund carryover. And I'll explain the different type of funding sources. Our reimbursable trust funds are also less at $300,000, and we are not using any non-reimbursable trust fund this year. The difference between last year's budget and this year's budget is less than 1%. And you can kind of see in the chart the changes in the type of funding that we're going to be using for our budget this year. Next slide. So if we look at program-wise, overall, they're pretty much consistent, just that there's more, we are spending more money in operations this year, a little less in ocean management, just because we are transitioning into a new grant that we have not gotten awarded yet. And until we get awarded, it won't go into the ocean management budget. Restoration is planning on spending funds on the new DOH project, and we'll talk about that. And the culture program is, we have funding for a new person once we get that person on board. And you can see in the chart, the distribution between programs and also the type of funding, which is also in the memo. Okay, next slide. So starting with general fund allotment. So this year, we had an increase in our general fund allotment. Last year, we had 1.803 million. This year, we have 1.84 million. So about $37,000 more in general funds. Most of those general funds increase is with the projection of a increase in salaries. So it's every year there's the actual salaries we pay somebody, and then the budgeted salaries that we get from the state. And those increase every biennium. So we do have a slight increase. We are projecting a 10% restriction, which means for whatever allocations we get from the state, we're expecting for the state to hold back about 10%. And whatever the balance is, that's what we're going to operate with. So in total, we have more than enough in personal services, which is payroll, with the restriction to cover the current payroll. So we're good for this year. And other operating expense, we're allocated about $551,000 in other operating expense. But in our actual budget, we are only going to be using about $459,000, $100,000. So we're about $2,000, no, about $6,000, $60,000 under what we're being allocated for. And whatever leftover general funds we have at the end of the year, we'll be able to encumber that into any existing contracts that transfer over. So in other words, with general funds, we're pretty much the same funding as last year. Okay, next slide. General fund carryover. So general fund carryover are funding that we get from 24 that we have encumbered into multiple contracts that cross over into 25. So it allows us, excuse me, it allows us to use FY24 money in FY25 as long as we have a contract that crosses both years. The majority of those contracts are the office maintenance service contract, which is janitorial services, the lease rents, the boat fuel contracts, boathouse maintenance contracts, and base camp management contracts. They cross multiple years. We were lucky this year because we had about $100,000 in vacancy savings because we weren't able to fill all our positions by the end of the year. So we've had funding for the culture position. Took us a while to hire somebody. Once we got somebody, we're still trying to get all the paperwork together to get that person on board. I'll talk about that in personnel, but we weren't able to get everybody on board on payroll this year so that they didn't actually charge payroll. So we were authorized to transfer that money to operations. So that's $100,000. And then we lucked out because Park Services had large vacancy savings, and they decided to distribute that to the rest of the department. So we put in the request for $200,000, and we got $200,000 from Parks. So we also add that to our vacancy savings. So normally a vacancy savings might be about 100 or so. This year we got 459,000. 300 of that is from vacancy savings from ourselves and 200 from Park Services. So we got a lot of money, which also means we didn't need to use all the G funds that we got. So we'll be able to carry that money forward and use that next year. The last part of the table is the reimbursable trust funds. We utilize trust funds we expense the cost of a grant from the trust funds, and then we get reimbursed by the grants. So all the funding you see here, which is $303,000 and $7,700, that is the amount of money that we're expecting to spend out of the trust fund that we will get reimbursed. So budget-wise, it's a net zero. Okay. Next slide. Oh, okay. Okay, so final impact. We're estimating to end this year just under $400,000 in the trust fund. If you look at the revenues, $303,000 is the grant money that we're expecting. Trust fund interest, that's what we get from the bank for having the trust fund be banked. So it's about $5,000. We're expecting about $65,000 income, which is access fees, boat registration fees for trolling, other amounts like that. Account receivable, this is something new category. $200,000 is the amount of money that is owed to us from previous year's grants that have not been transferred to the trust fund. The way most of these grants work is that they open a special fund account. The money goes into the special fund. As we expend costs, it takes money from the special fund and transfer it to us, but it takes a while. It takes almost a year to transfer money from a grant that's put into a special fund, transfer to our trust fund. So we're hoping there's about $200,000 that's sitting there right now that should be transferred to us, and it's taken a while. It takes a while to transfer to us. So we're counting that as accounts receivable. And then we're, very conservatively estimating about $30,000 in gifting. That's donations, etc. We usually have more, but this is just, for planning purposes. Expenditures, we're looking at $603,000. $603,000. Oh, no, 603 is the total amount of revenue. Expenditures is basically the amount of money we're going to be using from the trust fund to pay for the grants, 303. So we're looking at a projected net income for 25, about $300,000, and putting us at the end of the year somewhere a little bit under $700,000 in the trust fund. Still keeps us under the $1 million threshold where the legislature starts asking why you got so much money. So we're kind of good place. If you want detail wise, we have in the memo more details about which grant has how much money they're going to be using. So can we go back one slide? So we still have remnant money from IMLS 5 and 6, which should be ending sometime this calendar year. We still have about 34,000 in HTA grant. Coastal Wetland Conservation CWC grant is also being finished up. Our NACA small grant, because of the boat schedule and the boat was down, we weren't able to do a lot of planting in the spring, so we're going to be doing that in the fall. So that gives us 36,000. And we're still waiting for DOH. We're expected to get DOH 6, which is going to be planting up on the hard pan, just past K2 Road area. We still don't have a MOU with DOH. Department of Health is working on water. They're doing a bunch of water grants for Lahaina. And so we're kind of in the pipeline for once they get all these agreements written for water systems on Maui, where they'll write us our contract and then we'll be able to get the DOH funding. The DOH funding is sitting there at their account. We just have to get people to write the MOU for us. Any questions about grant? About our budget?
Chair?
Yeah.
If I can just ask, this year, there was a request for 4.2 million for appropriation for the Kihei.
Yes.
So are you going to request that next year?
Yes. As CIP.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
so-
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna be asking for that again. And WHAM gave us our requests.
It just
But-
didn't go into CD1.
But they didn't tell us that they're gonna give it, so we didn't have a chance to work with finance.
Okay.
So this year we actually told everybody last year when we went to visit everyone, we told them we're not gonna ask for anything because we want to let them focus on Lahaina, but at the very last minute, WHAM gave us our first funding request for the Kihei project. So at least we know they're admirable to doing it. So we'll have to work on finance this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just wanted to confirm my understanding. So the balance in the trust fund is a little under $700,000.
That's our projection at the end of 25. Right now, the balance is about, we're projecting the balance to be about 400,000.
And you mentioned 1 million is kind of a threshold before, has the legislature rated the trust fund in the past?
No, they ask questions.
But that's a totally separate
Yeah.
fund. That's really shouldn't be.
Well, normally they
Something
go,
to
how can we
legislate.
give you money? You got so much money.
Oh, I
So,
see.
yeah, so we try to keep it down
Yeah.
at a reasonable rate so that they go, okay, you guys need money. So yeah, if we get, we were at pretty high amount when we started asking, but we knew we were going to be broke in a year or two or
Right.
3. So we started asking early and they're like, oh, you still got 10 million. It's like, what do you need money? It's like, well, a couple of years, we're not going to be there. So,
Okay. thank
so
you.
it took a few years, but I think we keep it under $1 million. Keep it under 7 digits. They don't look at it that hard,
Thank you for answering.
Yeah. And that's all I have to present. If there's any questions, and then requesting a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna end this slide.
Any additional questions? I will entertain a motion otherwise to approve the Kirk budget.
I'll move to approve the FY 25 Kirk budget. Commissioner Pang.
Commissioner Pang,
I'll second Commissioner Saito.
any discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Chair Piscaya,
Aye.
Vice Chair Saito,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Mataafa,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Action item B, review and approve the renewal of the Palapala'ai Kaho'olawe, which is the stewardship agreement that exists between the KIRC and the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana through its nonprofit corporation and fiscal agent Kohemala Malamo Kanaloa, also known as the Protect Kaho'olawe Fund. Director, no, PE, are you presenting this?
Yes, okay. So the recommended motion is to approve the revised Palapala'ai Kahuaina stewardship agreement with the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana PKO through its nonprofit corporation and fiscal agent Kohemala o Kanaloa from June 26, 2024, today, through June 26, 2035. So a little bit of background on this agreement. First signed in 2009 to enter into a stewardship agreement between the KIRC and the PKO and Kohemala Kanaloa, or Ohana as we know, was really signed for a period of 5 years. Then it was extended in 2014 for another 5 years, and 2019 for another five years, which expires this year. In preparation for renewing this current agreement, both parties reviewed the agreement to determine if any changes needed. A request by the PKO to modify the agreement was received, and working with the Deputy AG and members of PKO, the following changes were made. First one, in the preamble, extending the agreement's effective date for a duration from 5 years to 11 years. The Ohana requested a longer extension date, which should not be a problem with either party. So, second part was to add in section 2, under sites, to add Kukulukea Kanaloa culture plan for Kanaloa Kaho'olawe to third paragraph. This document did not exist when we originally wrote the first stewardship agreement, so we're updating the agreement to include the culture plan that the Kaho'olawe Foundation had written as one of the foundational materials. Then in section 3, background of the parties, administrative changes were made to the section because originally it was locked into the period of time prior to the agreement. So what we're doing now is that as the agreement gets renewed, we are updating the status of how many people have been going to the island, how long this agreement has been, so that it becomes more of a living document and reflects the current conditions versus the locked-in conditions from 2009. So that's what some of the changes were made in this section. Next one was to delete this LOU is attached and incorporated as part of this agreement to the 8th paragraph. The LOU is already referenced as a background document and is not necessary for this document. This LOU was prior to the stewardship agreement. The PKO and the KIRC signed an LOU for agreements for access to the island. But since this agreement supersedes the authorization for access, and LOU then becomes a background material, we didn't need it anymore. It's part of the whole living document that it was attached as part of the first time we signed it, but after 3 iterations, we don't need to do it. We didn't attach it anymore. Next one, under section 7, add support staging for Ohana Huakai to Maui, including at the KIRC site. So there's a request by the Ohana to conduct overnight staging prior to their early morning departures to Kaho'olawe at the KIRC's Kihei property. This site is adjacent to the Kihei small boat harbor and currently houses the KIRC's boathouse, and vessels. Details of the actual activities and parameters of this support are still to be determined, but the KIRC is supportive of the concept. Approval of this agreement does not waiver or grant any exceptions from any permits, planning requirements, or other external state, county, or local approvals necessary to conduct this activity. So in concept, we'll figure it out. There still might be some county permit requirements because zoning of the property, and also because we're within the shoreline, we might need a SMA permit to change the nature of the activity that's there, because now staging is an overnight activity that was not preconceived when we did the initial SMA permit. So we might have to do a new SMA. So we'll still figure all that out. And we still have to figure out exactly what is the request, where people want to be. I mean, it's gravel. There's only one porta potty there and no water really available. So we still gotta work it out. But in concept, we'll figure it out. Number 7, roles and responsibilities. There's requests in addition to all the above roles and responsibilities. Both the KIRC and the Ohana share a mutual interest in keeping each other informed ongoing about new development phenomena or the needs of the island's cultural and natural life. This was to ensure that we already have a official point of contact communication between the parties of this agreement. That's the KIRC ED and the designated points of contact with PKO, which is currently with Daviana McGregor and Kali Omo. This is to ensure that there are other communications along informal routes between the two parties along the way with parties other than the official parties. So any updates we got from the island or any of the updates we have, we'll just communicate them to Ohana. Modifying section 11, modifications. Modifying the sentence, the terms and conditions of this agreement will remain in full force and effect by adding unless modified or amended by written agreement. The old language had to terminate the agreement before it could be modified, but this allows for modification with the agreement still being effective. This is the first time we even realized that we had to terminate to make any modifications, which we always did. Yeah, we usually had modifications at the end of the term anyway. Last one, oh no, keep going. Terms, changed agreement from 6 years to 11 years. Same as the preamble, a request for a longer term period. We haven't made too many modifications in this agreement over the time. I think one of the first parts was agreement about the liability and about voluntarism. We've settled all that in the last 5 or 6 years. So I think we're pretty stable on the purposes now. Now we're just we can figure that we can have a longer term without having to go through this process every 5 years. Then there's a last request. The Ohana requested the phrase, with reference to HRS 6K, the transfer and management control of the island and its waters to the sovereign native Hawaiian entity. It is acknowledged that any progress towards this during the term of this agreement will involve the Ohana as Kaho'olawe for Kaho'olawe be added to the end of this section. Well, in consultation with the Deputy Attorney General's office, we are not including this language into the current agreement. If and when there is a future progress regarding the transfer of the island of Kaho'olawe, the Ohana is currently represented by 3 commissioners on the KIRC. The Deputy AG is concerned with making commitments for the state regarding any additional parties that may or may not be involved in such future discussion without any established guidelines or agreements. And we don't think we have 2 things. We don't think this is the correct document that any agreements will be made regarding the future transfer of the island, since this is a stewardship agreement between 2 parties for access to the island. And third, we don't think that we have the authority to commit any parties to an agreement that doesn't exist yet. So we asked that we did not include this modification because I think because of those reasons is beyond the scope, and it's a commitment we don't think we can make at this time with regards to that. And the Ohana is represented by 3 commissioners on the commission. Other than that, those are the changes. Everything else remains the same. And we do have signature sheets for those parties who are here, if we can have those signed, and then we will circulate these around to the rest of the members of the commission and to PKL. And I'll be on Maui tomorrow, so I'll see if I can get the Ohana president, see if he's around and can sign this. Any questions?
So Mike, just to confirm, Ohana has reviewed the modifications?
Yes.
Okay.
So all the modifications are included in the copy that's attached. All the ones that we agreed to. We basically agreed to mostly every one of them, except for the very last one.
Any further questions?
I do, Commissioner Pang. There's some typos as to Hawaiian language marks, Okina Kahako. I don't think they changed the substance of the agreement, but I just know that there were some missing, misplaced Okina Kahako. The other more important one is I would like to see this document eventually in Hawaiian language. I think it's an appropriate place, this commission, this island, this party, the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana, and our times today, that this document should be in Hawaiian language. So that's something I charge both the commission and Ohana, maybe in a rewrite, that this be in Hawaiian language.
Okay. Read it.
Duly noted. I agree. Any other questions?
I'll move to
Seeing-
approve.
Commissioner Pang, second.
I second. Commissioner Evans, second.
Evans. Mahalo. Call for a vote.
Member Saya,
Aye.
Vice Chair Saito,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Montalta,
Yes.
Commissioner Pang.
Aye.
Motion carried. Mahalo. Moving on to agenda item section 4C. To authorize, yes,
Oh, no.
to authorize KIRC Ocean Program staff to conduct the excavation of known honu nests on Kaho'olawe with the presence of cultural supervision and direction. I turn the time over to Dean.
Hey, aloha. Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm proposing the recommended motion to authorize KIRC Ocean Program staff to conduct the excavation of known honu nests on Kaho'olawe with the presence of cultural supervision and direction. Sorry. Just some background on this is so thanks to the presence of our Dawson contractors on island on May 15th, they were able to document and confirm active honu nesting in Honokanai'a, about the middle of the beach in Akiaki grass. And from there, we're able to determine the incubation periods. So if it is a true nest, it would hatch somewhere between the 55-day mark, which would be July 14th, or the 75-day mark, August 3rd. Regardless of what happens, the Ocean Program will be monitoring this nest, both in presence and as well as with remote camera monitoring. The reason for the excavation, if the nest does hatch, the reason for the excavation would be to determine what success or mortality rates were. If it is a false nest, which we have documented in the past as well, about 16 years ago, we'd be able to confirm that it was a false nest, one way or the other. Like I stated earlier, 16 years ago at Pu'utahiti, there was a very similar nesting situation, and it was monitored and it was excavated at that time, actually twice, to make extra sure that it was a false crawl. So we just want to confirm, one, if it is a true nest, and two, what the success or mortality was. Those are the reasons for the nesting. Yeah, that's it.
So commissioners, in the memo, the item 4C memo, it describes the legal authority by which this activity can be conducted. Does anyone have any questions about the proposed activity, methodology, history?
I do, Commissioner Pang. There are excavations going on currently on Oahu. My other hat with Fish and Wildlife Service, one of my staff, Dr. Sheldon Plentovich, has developed an app where they're mapping turtle nests on island here on Oahu. The excavations are conducted with a nonprofit, Malami no Honu, and cultural protocol takes place. So I just want to offer that if you want to, Dr. Plentovich may reach out to you, because I told her about this memo, and she may reach out to you, Dean, but if you want her contact, I can give you that as well. But she could be a resource for you as far as this mapping app and cultural protocol, at least that's being done currently on Oahu.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Pang. Yeah, I'm not sure who that is. We've currently been working with NOAA entities. Our Maui contact here is Nicole Davis through Pyro,
Okay.
and also fisheries officials as well. We're unsure exactly who would be assisting us or working with us from that side right now. So your contact could be a good resource that we could tap. And as far as the cultural presence of the supervision and direction, to be honest, we would seek suggestion from the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana as well as the commission.
Sure.
And so that was kind of related to my question. So you don't really have the cultural supervision and direction spelled out yet. You kind of wanted to collaborate with the PKO on figuring out what that would look like.
Yeah, we want to get input, and the reason is because the last time it was done, we had a staff member involved, a cultural staff member involved. It was Kapono Aimolitau at the time. Currently, we do not have that position filled, so we would then seek guidance from, again, like I said, the Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana and the commission, if any recommendation you guys would have it at this time.
Yeah, because I guess the only concern that I have is that there's a iwi kupuna site in the vicinity, so I would just be very careful and cautious, especially if you take. I think I remember the last time you had a handful of volunteers that were rotating in and out, right? That you were moving in and out of Keli Kahiki and camping in that area. So I would just be cautious about other potential impact on other cultural sites, particularly the iwi kupuna sites in that area.
Yeah, so currently where the nest is, and looking at the mapping of ARC sites, and I'm not sure if the iwi kupuna burial that you're speaking of is documented, but currently where the nest is, it's right pretty much at the high water mark or just above. So yeah, and it's not near any of the documented archaeological sites.
Yeah, it's on the Alaloa Trail. It's right alongside the Alaloa Trail, so you would kind of have to pass it. So I'd just be, it's kind of marked. It's kind of on the.
That's the
Right before
Pu'u
you-
Tahiti location. This one is Honakanaya, right?
Yeah,
this
this
is
is
what
a
the
different
Kanea-
location.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
DOH plantings over there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is in Honakanaya proper,
Okay.
right up in the middle of the beach where we land, basically. The beach that we land on, it's right in the middle, right? Actually, it's right in front, Makai word of the two prominent Nile.
Is it currently marked?
Yeah, it's flagged and staked.
Okay. No, I didn't see it. That's why and now I'm trying to go back to.
Oh yeah, you were just there last
I was
week.
just there on.
You were there last week.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, then I think we're fine on the
Yeah.
cultural sites. Yeah.
Mahalo, Dean. I think it would behoove the KIRC
Yeah.
to involve Ohana.
Yeah.
I know definitely Craig will want to be involved in some way. So.
Chair,
Commissioner Mataafa?
thank you, Chair. Just sorry for my ignorance. What goes into the excavation? Because I'm not too familiar with what goes on when you guys do excavate a nest. Sorry for being kind of new to this.
No, actually, in all honesty, I've never led an excavation. I've participated in 3, but I've never led it. So that question is actually a good question. Speaking with NOAA officials, what the protocol usually is, they don't dig right on the nest. It's just to the side or around. They wouldn't dig smack dab in the middle. And it's a slow hand, it's by hand, hand dug. And yeah, and again, and in all honesty, Chair Piscaya probably would have a lot more input in this and participating in probably many more excavations than I have. So yeah, this might be a question directed for our chair.
No. Participated in more. But there's really good reason for, well, let me just add context. So majority of the honu that we see in the main Hawaiian Islands actually nest outside of the main. They nest on a little atoll called Lalo. And that is a really low-lying island at the moment that at any time can go malalo o ke kai. It can disappear. And so we're seeing honu behaviors change. And they're starting to explore alternatives because our kupuna are very resilient. And they're not just going, if the island gets wiped out, it's not like that's the end of honu. It's happened before, right? They've migrated around and they just find another spot. So this is really interesting, I think, personally, to see. I'm starting to hear stories of honu. We're seeing monk seals even starting to birth in new places that they've not been recorded to access previously. So I think it is, as a steward, our monitoring and our tracking of this information is, and the way it contributes to the greater conversation and understanding of what's happening with these kupuna is valuable.
Thank you for that. So the excavation is used to determine if there are eggs in the nest then?
Yes, so
Okay.
it's a slow removal of the sand to a depth that is like where they should have laid. This is as deep as a turtle is going to get. And we just look for signs if there was an attempt to lay, if there are signs of eggs, and sort of determining if there are, then they may be collected and examined. But and there's a lot of more details that go into it. It's a very mindful process. And I think at this level, it's just seeking the commission's support, yes or no, for this activity. And then Dean will be charged with coming up with a plan that aligns with all of our regulations and the kuleana that we have to be respectful, both culturally, scientifically, and on the legal side of things. So, and as Commissioner Pang mentioned, there are other entities with skill sets that maybe KIRC can tap into, and this is a great opportunity for us to network. But definitely, I look forward to the PKO also participating and being involved in this, more so because of their presence, that we're going to have to start monitoring this kind of activity as well. So there's lots of room for education across the board on this topic.
Thank you.
I'll move to authorize our staff to conduct the excavation. I'll also add that I think this is a really good learning experience for all parties involved and maybe some new parties. So let's consider this also safely, make sure we're not disturbing any other sites. But we look at this as a educational experience for our staff, our partners, and the Ohana especially.
Mahalo, Commissioner Pang. Do we have a second?
A second.
Mahalo, Commissioner Saito. Any further discussion?
Just one point, and Dean, I'm certain this is your intention, but the excavation would not be done until the latest date of the hatch, after August 3rd, no earlier than August 3rd, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes, Commissioner Chang. So the 75th day is actually, yes, August 3rd. The earliest we're looking to do it would be our access of that month would be August the 12th or 13th. So it is well past the 75th day of incubation. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then Dean, who would you prefer to communicate with? Do you prefer the commissioners to make the communication with the PKO, or do you have a preferred PKO rep that you would like to work with?
I would prefer that a PKO rep from the commission suggest a contact to me at this time, and I will move forward from there.
Lopaka.
Kopapaka.
Lopaka Iwahi,
Okay.
PKF president.
Yeah.
I'll see him
To
tomorrow.
clarify, I will if the motion is approved, I will seek input, recommendation, and begin communication with Lopaka Iwahi on who should be the cultural advisor on this project. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's call for the vote.
Chair Piscaya,
Aye.
Vice Chair Saito,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang,
Aye.
Commissioner Evans,
Aye.
Commissioner Mataafa,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne.
Aye.
Mahalo, motion carried.
Thank you,
So-
commissioners.
Mahalo, Dean.
Yeah, mahalo, Dean.
Mahalo. Moving on to our agenda item number 5, administrative business. We shall hear now from the executive director on his report on 4 items.
Thank you very much, Chair. Starting with the Executive Director report, budget expenditure report for FY '24. This report attached behind my report is for 11 months through May 31st. So 11 months will put us at 92% of the calendar. Our expenditure so far has been about 74%, so we're significantly under our budget. None of the areas within our budget, we've exceeded any of our budget areas, so our expenditures are fine. We're actually significantly under in certain areas, and the biggest one is in restoration, non-personnel. We didn't really spend much because we had budgeted for the DOH 6 grant, and we still didn't get our agreement with the Department of Health. So they didn't have any expenditures in there. So most of the plants that we're putting in the ground has been either donations or we're beginning with the CWC or the other projects that are under Ocean program. And Ocean program has had the bulk of the planting this year with the restoration guys helping out. Our long range schedule is attached for your own information, so you can take a look at what we have going for the next 12 months. Some of the big highlights, we have a lot of, because we had a lot of accesses we had to cancel in the spring, we're going to be trying to programming them back in to fill some of the openings we have, but we do have coming up Makahiki, which is Thanksgiving weekend. It's on the schedule with PKO. And then we do have a Mo'olono access in January where they usually do Makahiki prep. And we have Kanihunamoku coming in September. Other than that, we're just trying to catch up with all the commitments we had before with everyone. Commissioner status. The following commissioners currently terms will expire 2024. So Commissioner Evans and Pang, both of their terms will expire this year, but they still can serve another 5-year term. So right now they can be holdovers until next legislative session is over. So if they decide to continue their term, we will work with the legislature to get new appointments, and we'll work with the initiating organizations, PKO and Civic Club for you guys, to get a appointment or to get a recommendation, and then testimony, and then get a hearing scheduled sometime in the spring. Hopefully we'll do it early. We have enough time and get it through the Senate before Senate gets into a new biennium budget discussion. And it's going to be an interesting year. So better we get everything early this year because it's new money. So it's going to be a lot of things happening. KIRC staff updates. We have a new hire for a logistics specialist. The former KIRC intern, Kalei Guth, was selected for the position. We are currently waiting for her start date. We've submitted all our paperwork, so we're just waiting for a start date for her. She will be taking over as the first mate for the boat. For those who don't know her, she used to be one of our interns many years ago, and she has a background with the Coast Guard, so she has a lot of boat experience, and hopefully we'll have a new captain with her. Yeah, so we'll be training to be a captain one of these days. And then we also have a hire for a new culture resource project coordinator. Hoku Cody was selected for the position. We are currently undergoing the hiring process. We need to get copies of her documentation. So we need, because of, I forget what issue it was Department of Safety, somebody. So they didn't have all their diplomas and everything. So we need to get copies of her diplomas and transcripts so that we can submit to verify that she meets the requirements. It's something personnel is doing now. So once we get all that paperwork, I think Hoku's stuff is on Oahu somewhere, so she's trying to find them. And then we'll process her through the hiring process. So that might take a little longer. Or hopefully Kalei will be sometime in the next month, and then Hoku might take maybe a month or two after that, a month after that. The only other update we got is on the base camp capital improvement project. At the last commission meeting, we awarded the project to Dawson Solutions LLC for $342,800. The balance of the funding, $157,200, and $200. We were able to get a blanket encumbrance, so we are encumbering it against the contract, and we were able to add it to the contract with future scopes of work. So we're able to save that money, and we'll be able to use that. We're still working with the Dawson staff to put a project schedule together and looking at transportation of the materials and supplies out to the island and how their work schedule is going to impact our on-island access schedule. We're trying to minimize the things they're doing, minimize the impact to any of our volunteer accesses. So we're going to be working that out. So the two of us are still talking about that.
Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. I received a message from Commissioner Mata'afa. He had to jump off. He has a meeting at 2, but he said thank you all.
Okay.
And we still have quorum. Yeah, we still have quorum. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Commissioner Mata'afa is no longer on the agenda, but we still have a quorum for continuing the meeting. Okay, staff will be working with Dawson to develop a project schedule that fits within our operational schedule with the least impacts to current project restorations. Okay. And that's all I have for the ED report, because we just had a meeting not too long ago. We have some updates, and I will turn them over to, we have IMLS 4. Who's doing that one? Carmelo's not here, huh? Is Carmelo there, Molly?
This is Matt.
Okay.
Dean, is Matt there?
Yeah, VR.
Matt is currently not in the office.
I'll just.
Okay. So IMLS 4 was community access through virtual resources. That pretty much is, we're almost terminating that right now because we've done all the work. We're just waiting for all the funding to get received, and we're going to be carrying this update until the funding gets received. IMLS 5 is enhancing infrastructure of Kaho'olawe Reserve. I think we still had on our budget for IMLS 5, we just have one cloud server to purchase. That's it. That's all we got left. Carmela's not in the office, is she? No, okay. Yeah, so we just have one cloud service to purchase, and then other than that, we're just waiting for all the reimbursements to come in. IMLS 6, HTA first. HTA is whose grant? Oh, yours, okay.
Hello, commissioners. So update on the HTA grant.
Oh, you might have to come.
Oh.
Hey, you got to come up here then, so we can see you on camera. There you go. Are you on camera? Yeah, there you go.
She would be, yeah.
Okay. Hello. So update on HTA. We had $15,000 that was allocated to repair the topographic map. which the electricians at the Maui Ocean Center repaired for us. So I submitted a budget request to reallocate those funds to do other upgrades like purchase monitors and new photographs for the exhibit. So that did get approved by the grant. So I'll be working on handling that. And then we did get a QR code on stickers. So I brought some. This is just the first design, but we'll be, I'll be designing some other
Nice.
ones that might be similar to this one as well. There you go.
Thank you.
And then we also are going to create a QR code to do, this is a typo, but it's not VR, it's a scan for a virtual tour of the Wahi Pana sites on island. So that's just a mock-up of what it would look like. And yeah, and that grant is set to end August 31st. So I'll be busy the next month or two, just using those. I think it's 34,000 funds for the rest of the grant.
Yeah, good try.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Coastal wetland NACA. And that's Dina, that's you guys.
No.
Is that Paul's one?
Aloha, Commissioners. The NACA, the Coastal Wetland Grant, we're proceeding ahead. We've removed all the kiawe trees in the Keanakeki, the coastal area. And with the volunteers, we're constantly pulling, trying to expand the area of the aki and the cresta shrublands by digging up clumps of buffergrass and other alien species. In the Kaho'olawe wetland area, again, we are, when we can, we're up there pulling the guinea grass and also the cocklebur or xanthium in that area. We hope to be planting in these areas in September and October of this year. Are there any questions for the coastal wetland projects?
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Okay, moving on to the Kapalu o Kanaloa Partnership Project. Right now, we have 19 plants in cultivation, 3 at Kahanu Gardens in Hana. I think 3 in 3 at the Ho'olawe Farms, and the 13 of them up at the Olinda plant, rare plant facility. 3 plants that we did have at the Maui Nui Botanical Gardens did die due to mealybugs, snow scales, and the fungi in that area. So right now we're a little cautious. We're a little bit concerned, and I think with the guidance of Anna Palomino at the rare plant facility, going to start proceeding. Well, not proceeding, but taking a little bit more caution on as we pass out plants, or if we do pass out any other plants to other nurseries or other botanical gardens. Anna's having monies to build a special facility up at Olinda, and I think she'd like to just focus on the plants, keep them up there under her guidance and eye for a while until we can start bringing up the numbers at this time. We're also working on a website design that through our PR people, we're working and hope to have this put out during the next Hawaiian Conservation Conference, which is at the end of July and early August. Any questions on Kapolu Palu'o Kanaloa? Okay.
So this pattern that's on here, this is for part of the logo.
Yes, that is.
We're gonna make a quilt. Yeah.
Mike?
Okay, on to the Kamuhio Wetland Restoration Project. As Executive Director Nahopi stated earlier, that we're still waiting for the MOU from a DOH. Again, they are held up. Well, they're focusing their attention to the priority of the recovery of Lahaina. We do contact them once a month to just get an update, just give us an idea with that, so we can start proceeding ahead. with the monies that we'll be getting, we'll also be able to hire a person for 3 years, and I think put in 30,000 plants within this the Kamo'olawe wetland area, watershed area. So we are chomping at the bit, just waiting to go to proceed with the Kamo'olawe project. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
And then Dean.
Thanks, Paul.
Aloha, good afternoon again, commissioners. I'm here to review the CWC grant. The CWC grant, or National Coastal Wetland Conservation Grant, is funded by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's a grant award amount total of $355,531. Grant life runs from March 22nd to the upcoming August, in a couple of months here of 2024. Main deliverables of the grant are to restore and the emergent scrubland wetland in Honakanaya. It's a 2.69 acre area. A lot of the deliverables have been met already. If you look down the highlight checklist, Mark, the last one that we're still continuing to work on is just finish up that designated 2.69. We've got accomplished of about 2.25 acres. So over the next few axes, we should be able to finish that up in the terms of planting and buffalo grass, invasive buffalo grass removal. Some of the biggest things that this grant has been able to accomplish for us is obviously first and foremost is the hiring of another position, Christina. She's been an incredible addition to our program. We've exceeded the grant amount obligation of 20,000. Believe we're at 23,000, and as funding dwindles down, we're estimated to probably get in about 27 to 28,000 plants in the Honakanaya area. We did road work to reduce sedimentation runoff into the bay, also excavating and clearing out the silt pond right outside of camp. Monitoring projects are considered anytime our presence in the area, the planting area in Honakanaya, we're doing wildlife monitoring. And the lectures, outreach and education to community groups. We just completed a 24 of 24 required. As far as expenditure goes, we've spent approximately about 164,000. We've billed about 140,000 and are working with fiscal to receive all of that. We're actually in the process of trying to finish up the grant. So I'll report on this probably in the next update, but I just requested an extension for this grant. Reason being is to extend the position. The grant started in February, the grant started in March, but we weren't able to bring on Christina the position until later, 2 months later. So we're going to ask for that extension just to finishing up all the expenditure for that position required. In this past reporting period, like I said, we put in about 2,000 plants, bringing our total to over 23,000 in the area. We conducted 4 lecture and outreach events, and we did some road work repair. Approximately 44 tons of gravel and dirt was placed on the road to help improve some of the roadways on island. That's it for the CWC grant. I'd be glad to answer any questions if there are any. If not, moving on to the IMLS 6 project grant. It's funded by the Institute of Museums and Library Services, IMLS for short. This is currently our 6th IMLS grant within the KIRC, the first for the ocean program. It's a grant total award amount of $99,960. The project life period is from July 2023 to June 2026. Basically, what we were doing is cataloging and creating a database of observations and working with Protect Kaho'olawe Ohana to a shared database. On the KIRC side, we're utilizing aerial surveys, helicopter aerial surveys to make these observations, conduct these surveys to collect data. So far, we've spent $2,550 and haven't billed for any yet and haven't received any, obviously, as well. During this reporting period, some of the accomplishments were we conducted our first aerial survey under the contract award on April 12th. And also on May 1st, what I deemed to be a very productive and successful meeting with PKO representatives was held just to lay out and better solidify communications of responsibilities and deliverables and the purpose of the grant. We also were able to share the database that was created and the inputted data as well that we've already collected from our surveys. On another note, just related to the motion that was passed earlier in the meeting, the aerial surveys have shown to be very useful in the sense being able to monitor all the beaches around Kaho'olawe. So once that first Honu nest was recorded, we were able to monitor the entirety of the island and all other beaches because it is of regularity that usually if a Honu will nest, she will return within the next couple of days to re-nest. And through our aerial surveys, we were able to monitor that. Outcome was there we didn't see any. That's it for the Ocean Program IMLS 6 grant. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But if not, thank you for your time.
Dean, this is Commissioner Chang. I was just wondering, are you guys noticing, especially with these aerial photographs, impacts of climate change?
Oh, yeah, Commissioner Chang, that's a great question. In all honesty, it's not necessarily through our aerial surveys, but just our regular visits and accesses and presence on island. There's definitely, in my opinion, definitely what could be related to climate change in the factor of sea level rise. And that's part of the first grant we talked about, the CWC grant, is trying to, lack of a better term, arm the shoreline. I'm sure there's events, I'm not sure if you're familiar with shorelines on Maui, but we see shorelines on Maui like Baldwin Beach Park, North Kihei, where there is very little to no revegetation being done, native vegetation being done. So the beaches are just being lost. And it's just a matter of time where infrastructure of roads are going to be highly impacted. And so I think work and efforts that the Ocean Program and the Restoration Program is doing so near to the coastline is showing some success in resiliency to infrastructure, trying to protect some of our roadways through revegetation.
Because I chair the Climate Commission, and I think we have an opportunity on utilizing some of the observations on Kaho'olawe, where we have somewhat, I don't want to say pristine, but untouched versus we're seeing shoreline hardening, impacts of shoreline hardening, whether it's, seawalls or other man-made features, the impacts that they're having on escalating climate change. And we also know that, for example, probably public highways that's probably one of the worst seawalls around most of the islands. So it would be interesting to do some kind of a comparative study utilizing Kaho'olawe as sort of baseline on what happens when you don't have the impacts of man-made impacts. What's the change in the shorelines? Because climate change must be impacting all of our islands, but right. Yet we do have the ability to use somewhat to observe what's going on in Kaho'olawe. So I just was wondering if there's any attempt to do something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I agree with you 100%. Yeah, and some development is in many factors or many fashions is probably a huge impact to coastal loss. I don't have to tell you guys on Oahu; it's on the news almost daily. But one thing we're doing, and of course, to compare apples to apples, like you're saying, protocol need to be standardized. One methodology we're utilizing is on Kaho'olawe is we're doing beach slope change. So right in the areas where we're conducting our coastal plantings of 23,000 plants, we want to see what change or what impact it's having at what rate to the beach slope and how far out or how are we losing, how much beach are we losing. And we're doing that through monitoring of beach slope change over time.
I'd be really interested in having more opportunities to explore the values of what's happening on Kaho'olawe, especially if you look at indigenous knowledge, doing it in a more organic fashion versus what we're seeing on the other island. We're very challenged, so yeah, I hope there's an opportunity to see what more we can do to learn from the work that you're doing on Kaho'olawe.
Yeah, I extend the invitation to you and the committee you work upon to come to Kaho'olawe anytime.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo to all of our staff for your diligence and hard work in carrying out and executing all of these grants and projects. It's probably my favorite part of the meeting is when we get to see the impact that we are making, and just mahalo nui. I love your reports as well. The layout is very easy for me to read and follow along. So waikai. Is there anything else that needs to come forward? Otherwise, we are at the end of our meeting. An announcement for next meetings and any follow-up.
We're looking at possibly September for the next meeting. So we'll start looking for dates in that time frame. A couple of items. We want to be early enough this year because new biennium, so we get inputs on legislative priorities for the upcoming new session because it's going to be a brand new biennium budget. Also, we're going to be awarding the renewals for our base camp and comms contract early. Part of that is that the word we're getting is to encumber as much of our G funds as possible early before they get swept up. So we're going to be doing our early renewals, and then we'll encumber the funds so that we can lock in our G funds for the year. So at the end of as we get long through the fiscal year, money is not being swept up by people. It's looking, economics is looking kind of dreary for next year. Yeah, that's great. So those are the two big ones. Getting ready for the ledge session, and then we are going to be asking. We're going to start pushing for the Kihei development projects. We have discussions with NOAA coming up about they want to do some work on our project so they can house their boat. Their boat is stationed there with us, and they want to build out along our building. So we're going to see what they're willing to contribute to help with co-developing the actual boathouse expansion.
Yeah, Mike, I'd urge you to have a meeting with Chair Yamashita at the House Finance.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're already talking about CIP. So,
yeah.
And the administrative budget needs to be in probably by the 1st of September.
Yeah.
So I'd urge maybe a meeting early on September so you can get an approval by the commission,
yeah,
so that it can be included in the governor's budget.
Yeah, I'm ready to be talking to Kyle.
Okay, good, good. Yeah. So that's what they're looking. They're looking right now at large CIP budgets. So it would be good timing for you to talk to him.
That's all I got.
Okay, great.
We will be sending the signature sheets around. So we'll mail it to, the commissioners who are not here, we'll mail it to them for their signature, and then we'll have to have a return packet. And I think majority of these guys are going to be at the statewide PKL meeting.
Yes.
I think so. So I'll bring it. It's like a couple weeks up. Yeah. So I'll bring this to the statewide meeting and hopefully I can get everybody's signature. So I'll just try to see if I can have my signature scheduled. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mahalo nui e na limahana me na lala o ke komikina nei. Meeting is adjourned. Mahalo, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good efficient meeting.
Mahalo nui, e me
Happy end of the fiscal year. Yay.
It's the worst time of the year.
I know. I was just trying to perk you all up. Perk you up for the next 2 days of the last of the last.
Oia ka pa'ahano o ke kauvela.
Yeah.